Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 10. In this chapter, we're discussing retirement savings. We're going to be talking a lot about the registered retirement savings plan and the retirement pension plan that you might get through work. The first few videos are going to kind of talk about the principles of using pension plans and what happens when we put money into them. And then the next few videos are going to be what happens when we take the money out. And then we're probably going to touch on a couple other registered plans, but mostly RRSPs is the focus of this particular chapter. So let's get into laying the groundwork for that. So the purpose of an RSP is planning for retirement. It's a two-step process. The federal government provides pension benefits. So when you retire, when you reach old age, the government has pension amounts that they will pay out. Commonly, this is the CPP, the Canadian Pension Plan, and OAS, which is Old Age Security. It's meant to, during your lifetime, you will pay into CPP from your earnings, and that money gets put aside and is meant to be paid back to help individuals along with their retirement, especially in a day and age where lifespans are growing and people are spending more time in their retirement years. They're supposed to help out, sort of take care of the planning for it, that citizens or residents might not be doing on their own. Although they are helpful, in 2023, the maximum CPP that you could receive is about a little over 15,000 per year, and OAS could pay another $8,000. So combined, we're talking about just under $24,000. Now, that might not be considered enough for someone to maintain the lifestyle they did while they were working, especially if they're continuing to pay amounts like rent, or if they want a new vehicle or other things that take a high volume of money. So the government wants to encourage people to save on their own. The CPP and OAS help, but they don't, let's say they're not effective at really covering someone's lifestyles. It's sort of a minimum income amount to hopefully get through your fixed bills. So they wanted to incentivize people to save for their own retirement, and so they did so with the registered retirement savings plan. So we want to take advantage of incentives in form of retirement planning arrangements. It's important for individuals during post-retirement working years to plan for retirement well in advance. I think that meant to say pre-retirement working years. So if we're going to be working for 30 years before we retire, we can make use of a savings plan to help prepare ourselves for those post-retirement years. So, private retirement savings arrangements is the registered retirement savings plan. This is the most common example because anyone can go to a financial institution and open up an RSP for themselves. Now, if you have a pension plan through work, this is called a registered pension plan or an RPP. You might have those available to you, but those need to be sponsored by an employer. The employers will help make certain contributions. And we'll talk about how those benefits are arranged as far as contributions and benefit plans go. The Registered Retirement Income Funds. This is normally called a RIF. RIFs are like RSPs, except they're more of an repayment plan. So RSP is I've put money into it. The government says, well, let's say I kept working and I'm not taking the money out of the retirement savings plan. If I should suddenly pass away, all of that income comes into my tax return at once. And so the RIF, you can do it earlier, but once you reach about 70 years of age, your RSP must transfer to a RIF, and it will set a minimum amount of money you need to withdraw in every given year. The purpose of this is to make sure that you are pulling enough money to survive and also trying to make sure that you don't suddenly have a large income amount in the year you pass away, because that would be very hefty tax-wise. We will discuss more in RIFs further along in the videos. Pooled registered pension plans or RPPs. Some companies aren't big enough. Maybe there are only 12 people, and it's hard to contribute and save for such a small group of people through investments. So, pooled registered plans allow a number of small employers to get together and they all contribute into one savings plan for the group. Deferred profit sharing plans. This is like RPPs, where instead of giving you, if they have profit sharing, that money will get put into a savings plan and could be paid out later instead of declaring the bonus in a particular year, but they generally operate very similar to RPPs. And we'll talk about benefit plans and contribution plans um, in a bit. So, what is the use? What is the system of the retirement savings? The employer contributions, so if your employer pays into a pension plan for you, you don't need to declare that income now. That income is going to be declared later. Now, if you've already been paid the money, I'm going to be declaring the income. They've given me cash, but I've taken some of that money and I've put it into my retirement savings. Then I get to deduct it from taxes. The purpose of this is to protect some money from taxes. That's the function. If I, so when you make a certain amount of income, you pay taxes, that leaves you with less income left over, right? So if I can protect that income from taxes, it leaves a larger capital base. When we discuss savings, the compounding function of having savings over time improves greatly if you have a larger capital base to start from. So if I have $10,000, it gets taxed and I only have 7,000 left. If I invest that each year, let's say at 10%, that $7,000 is multiplying by 1.1, 1.1 again, 10% each year. So that goes to 7,700. And then that 7,700 goes to 8,500. But if I start with 10,000, then I'm receiving that 10% compounding rate on an additional $3,000. So in that first year, I'll make 1,000 instead of the 700. So by protecting from taxes now, it leaves more money to be compounded on for savings. And that can hopefully, over 30 years, achieve a much greater retirement outcome. So it protects you from taxes now. We get a tax deduction now, protected from taxes. We save some money. We have more money left over for savings. And then many years down the line, when we withdraw the money, then it will be included in our income and we will pay taxes then. So we have some tax savings now. We have a larger capital base on which to save, and then we have those deferred taxes way at the end. So there's a lot of ways in which this helps someone have a better financial outcome. So here's the money going in, quote, tax-free. The retirement savings, any investment income is tax-free while being earned. And then when you withdraw, it is pension income that will be taxed in your hands then. We covered in Chapter 9 TFSAs, RESPs, and RDSPs. I think we will slightly touch base on these again at some point in the chapter, but the focus of this chapter is retirement savings plan. So the RESP is for saving for schooling. The TFSA is current savings, but it's an after-tax amount. So any gains or any incomes on it is tax-free going forward. And the REDP is to provide for financial needs once supporting payment parents have passed away. So this is for individuals with certain disabilities that need care. Parents are not going to live forever. So if the parents are providing that care now, they can put money aside that when they pass, hopefully there's something left over that the individual can hire someone or have some funds available to help them out. Retirement savings plans. Contributions made by individuals reduce net income. So when we contribute to our savings plan, we are reducing our income, so we're being taxed on a lower amount. The contributions made by employer will not be taxable employment benefits because instead of adding it to your income and subtracting it, we just don't add it to the income. It's still the same net effect. So these income amounts that are put into the savings plan are protected from taxes. So sources of deferral. For employed individuals, employers may make contributions to RPPs, and deferred profit sharing plans. No taxable employment income. On withdrawal, usually after a lengthy period, then it's included in income as retirement income or pension income, as we want to say. Contributions made by employed individuals to RPP and by all individuals to RRSPs, contributions are deducted. So we're kind of just repeating the same things that these special plans, when we put money into them, we don't declare it as income. If we've already declared from income, then we get to subtract it. So let's just take a moment and discuss just comparing why we use the RSP. What does it do? So this individual, Brian Forthright, has $20,000 in before tax income. So he's made $20,000. He wants to invest it. He's trying to decide whether it would be better to contribute to his RSP and deduct the full amount or invest in an after-tax amount in a TFSA. He will invest the available funds in preferred shares of a public corporation that pay eligible dividends of 5%. At the end of 5 years, he would like to take an extended vacation. At that time, he will direct the RSP trust or TFSA to sell the shares and withdraw all the money. If he invests personally, he will sell the shares using all of the available after-tax funds, including the eligible dividends, to take that much needed vacation. Brian's combined marginal income tax rate on ordinary income is 40% and 22% on eligible dividends. So dividends come with a tax credit. So even though the dividend gets included in income, some of that income has already been taxed at the corporate level. So you will get a credit. So then that's what the difference is. So if he receives the income personally, it's 40%. If it's dividend income, it has a lower tax rate because the corporate taxes have already covered part of the obligation. Ignoring the effect of any reinvestment of dividend income, determine which of the three alternatives will provide more funds for Brian's vacation. So Brian has $20,000 and he wants to decide what to do with it. RSP, TFSA, or just invest personally. Which one will give him the best outcome? So we have three alternatives here. Let's start with the RSP. So our pre-tax income is $20,000. Our tax rate is 40%. Number of years, he wants to withdraw the money in 5 years, and the annual dividend is 5%. So 5% of $20,000 is $1,000 per year. So when he puts the money into the RSP, it's protected from taxes. It gets subtracted from his income. We pay no taxes on it. So the full $20,000 can be put into the account. 5% of 20,000 is $1,000, and he will receive this dividend every year. So 5 years of $1,000 is 5,000. So at the end of 5,000, the account's going to have $25,000 in it. He's going to withdraw the amount, but when he withdraws the amount, it gets included entirely in income. His tax rate is 40%, so he will have to pay 40% of that $25,000. So 10% of 10% of 25,000 is 2,500. 4 times that is 10,000. So 40% times 25,000, $10,000 will be paid in taxes. So we didn't pay the taxes when we put the money in. We pay the taxes when the money goes out. So the after-tax funds available is $15,000. How does the same situation compare to a TFSA? So the TFSA has an initial investment. He had income of $20,000. So he's able to invest $12,000. Now, 5% of 12,000 isn't the full $1,000. I think it's $600. So $600 per year for 5 years, he receives $3,000. So we've already paid the taxes. We weren't able to put $20,000 into the TFSA. We were only available to put 12 because we already paid the tax amount. So this increase in value, the dividends received, are not going to be taxed. So 12 plus the 3 we received, we have $15,000 in the account. We withdraw the 15,000. We pay no taxes. The taxes were already paid up here. After tax funds available, $15,000. Much like the TFSA of after tax initial investment, if we wanted to invest the money itself, we still need to pay the taxes first. We received $20,000. We paid 40%, that's $8,000. It leaves us with $12,000 left. I invest in my own hands. I just open account, invest the money. I receive that $600 of annual dividends. So I have available to me $15,000, but these dividends are not protected from taxes like they were in the TFSA. So every year when I received that $600 dividend, I had to pay a tax rate of 22%. So over the 5 years, I've received $3,000 and I would have paid 22% of that amount. So I would have paid 660, which would have left me with slightly less, $14,340. So you can see that these savings accounts help protect me from paying taxes. In other words, it leaves more money left over for me in the long run. So if I had invested directly, I'd only have 14,340, but the other accounts would have left me with 15,000. 5 years is a pretty short time window. When we save for retirement, we're looking at time periods over 20, 30, possibly even 40 years. So this income difference becomes more and more pronounced for every year that goes on. That compounding function of that having that initial savings just kind of gets bigger and bigger over time. So over a 5 year period, that's not too long. We only see that we had a small savings of $600, but this $600 compounds. The amount of money we save on taxes gets slightly bigger for every year that passes because of the deferral, because of that time value of money. Okay, I'm just going to do a couple more slides and then we'll finish off this subject. We'll just finish off this introduction. So the benefit comes from tax-free compounding. When we contribute $5,000 for 30 years, assuming there's a return of 10%, we would have it in RSP $822,000. That's compounding 10% every year for 30 years. Even though we have to pay it all in taxes, when we withdraw the amount, we pay our 45% in taxes, and it would leave us with $452,000. That's a good chunk of change. That's a good amount of money, especially at a time where hopefully, if we had a house, hopefully it's paid off. Hopefully we're able to live a lifestyle that's on a reduced income. This 450,000 could last us a number of years. If there's no RSP investment made, so if I'm just having it personally, after tax paid on $5,000 leaves only $2,750 for investment. So we have a smaller base. So now if we took that $2,750, invested it at 10%, after tax earnings equals 5.5%, right? Because we pay 45%. So every year we earn some investment income. That income is going to be taxed each year. So now we're not only do we have a smaller base, but our compounding rate's functionally 5.5%, not the 10. So investing for 30 years after taxes, we'd only have 199,000, about 200,000, a little less than half if we didn't use the RSP. Again, we're using a time horizon of 30 years. The longer this time horizon, the better the benefit of using the RSP. So there's always the best to contribute to these pension plans as soon as you can so that you can start earning that benefit. Larger accumulations available for retirement due to the deferral of income tax on deductible contributions and the income earned in the RSP. So our contribution was protected from taxes. The earnings were protected from taxes while they were compounding, and then we paid it all at once. Make contributions as early as possible can generate that extra 10% plan. And tax savings at retirement because of the individual's bracket at retirement. So tax deferral is already a benefit, but let's say I'm an executive of a company, I'm making $200,000 a year. My income's very high. So I'm in a higher tax bracket. But once I retire, now I'm not earning any employment income. So my income's zero. So as I pull money out of the RSP, that income's going to be taxed at those lower brackets first, where when I got to put the money into the RSP, I was deducting from that high amount. So if I took 20,000, I make $200,000. Let's say I took 10%, 20,000 and put into the RSP. That 20% saved me my marginal tax rate at 200,000. We're talking a federal rate of like 29%. And then when I pulled that 20,000 out later, I'm only paying taxes at 15%. So not only did I get to defer 29% on my taxes, but I physically paid less taxes because my bracket was lower. So there's a tax deferral and a tax avoidance component to RSPs. Once you pull it from your RSP, that's considered pension income. So you get the pension credit, and pension income is available for splitting with a spouse. So if I have a bunch of savings, but my spouse doesn't, when I pull from the RSP, I can split that income with my spouse, again, benefiting from lower tax brackets. One thing I want to say about considerations is if you borrow money to invest, if you borrow money to invest, that interest that you pay is normally deductible from the interest you're reporting from those investments. So if I invest in a bunch of shares, I'm earning interest and dividends, I declare that income, but the interest paid on the loan to buy those investments, I get to deduct or subtract from that investment income. That's not available for RSPs and TFSAs. Because the taxes are protected for now, I'm not declaring investment income. So I'm not allowed to deduct that related interest against my other income. That interest I'm paying is related to this investment income, but this investment income is protected from taxes, so the interest deduction wouldn't say protected from taxes, but doesn't apply to taxes. So in order to get the deduction, you have to be declaring the income. So if you're using these savings, these retirement plans or these registered plans, you might be losing out on certain deductions that you would take otherwise. Now, this is probably not an issue because your benefits from using the RSP is probably better than the deductions you're getting from the interest anyway. But it is a consideration that if you're going to borrow to invest, which is a very risky endeavor, perhaps you don't want to do that in a pension plan so you can keep using those deductions. Okay, I'm just going to talk two things about defined benefit and money purchase plans. Money purchase is also called a defined contribution. These are the two types of pension plans that employers usually provide to you, benefit or contribution. If it's a benefit, let's start here. If it's a defined benefit, the employer is saying your pension's going to be X number of dollars at retirement. We're going to pay you that every year. So the employer agrees to provide a specific benefit. Now, the benefit's usually a percentage of your average earnings. So we will pay you 2% of your earnings per year of service. So if the employer works for 20 years and on average earned 50,000 a year, 20, I'll just bring a calculator up so we can see it. So $50,000 times 2% is $1,000. So their benefit is going to increase by $1,000 every year they work. So they worked for 20 years. So when they retire, their pension plan is going to pay them $20,000 a year. They're going to get $20,000 every year until they pass away, really. So that's a defined benefit. It's a set benefit based on a percentage. So the retirement benefit is 20,000 per year. Now, I'm only contributing. Well, I guess I'm not necessarily contributing. So what it is the employer's taking on the risk of that pension. The employer saying, you work for us for a year, we will pay you $20,000 per year during your retirement. So it's up to the company to make sure that they are investing enough and earning required returns to cover that obligation. The employer is at risk to maintain those promised payments. A defined contribution is not the same. So a defined benefit is your benefit is 2%. Contribution is the employer agrees to provide a specified contributions. Normally, they'll do a matching. So using the 2% of income, we said it was $1,000 per year. Um, so they might say we're going to match 2% of your salary, and that's going to be the $1,000 they will put into your pension plan, basically. So it's going to be on you to make sure that those investments are managed and garnering a return sufficient enough for your retirement. So the employer is not taking on the risk. The employee is. You are who holds the pension plan. They just say, we don't promise to pay you $20,000 a year, but we will put $1,000 a year into the pension plan for you. And it's going to be up to you to, get what you can out of it. So the benefits based on a specified contributions and their accumulated earnings. There's no guarantee to employee as to the amount of retirement benefit to be received, the monthly pension benefit based on what the plan earns. So before they're guaranteeing, hey, we're going to pay you 20,000 a year. Here they're saying we will contribute $1,000 to your pension plan. Hopefully it covers your retirement. So RRSPs, RIFs, and deferred profit sharing plans are essentially money purchase plans, this defined contribution. So RRSPs is I have income, I put say 5,000 a year. That is a contribution. That RSP needs to earn money on that to support my retirement. Okay. So that's it for now. When we come back in the next video, we're going to now focus our discussion on RSPs. How much can we contribute? How do we calculate that? So thank you for your time. See you in the next video.